Good evening. It's time for some guitar. Let me go post our link over on the website. Website is denverguitarorchestra.com. This is our 324th meeting to chat of guitar and hopefully get a little better. If you missed the first 323 of them, you're fine. Update and update. Okay, so posted that over there. Tonight we're going to be working on Deo. We'll be playing that through from last week. Then we also have Down in the Valley for book 2. Book 3 we're on Amazing Grace, and we will start that's book 2. Book 3 we'll play Amazing Grace in America the Beautiful, and then we're going to study Andante in G, which is one of the great songs ever. And then for the classical track, we're going to play the Waltz by Mirtenbaum Zenamon, I should say. Mirtenbaum Zenamon, quite a name. And then our classical piece that we're going to study for this week will be called Moonlight. It's actually kind of a pretty piece, so I'm into it. The one that we are playing this week, I'm not that into. I guess I shouldn't say that, but it's ridiculous. All right, I will check in that the link is working properly, which it is. And let me go stick this over on Twitter, because we don't do anything without letting Twitter know. Denver Guitar Orchestra.com. We patiently wait for that. Put on our logo. Up. Guitar logo. Click tweet. And I wish that logo wasn't quite that detailed, because I can't put it on a t-shirt. I gotta get a polo shirt. I don't wear t-shirts. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. I'm wearing a Harmonica t-shirt of all things. Let's see. All right. Let me pull up my gadget here, and let's see how many of these things are already in the machine. Guitar book 2 is where we're starting. Let's go grab Deo, the Banana Boat song. And, of course, if you don't have the sheet music, go run over to the website and pick it up. It's always sitting there. Vic is in. She says the sound is good. I've been missing Vic. She and I have spent a lot of time together over the last, since the pandemic began. And now we only see each other, we see each other quite a bit less than we used to. And good to have you. Gary, also delighted you're here. Sound is good, he says. Wonderful. Gary is in the house. Vic, Stepán Rak posts sometimes on YouTube. I have not checked it out. I know that there's several pieces of his in the book, the Royal Conservatory book, and so I think he's well thought of, and I think he's a fine composer, and so his Moonlight piece today is actually really lovely, so I'm excited to play it with you guys. Linda is here, ready for some more. Poor Linda had to deal with my harmonica mess today. I get this, guys. I don't know if you've ever done this, but there's certain things in life you just know in the middle of the afternoon. You don't sit down on the lazy boy. You don't. Now we don't. They're not lazy boys, but they're nice chairs we have out in the living room, and better than to sit on one, because within 30 seconds you're going to be asleep. And I slept through half of harmonica class today. A few people were still hanging around. As you guys know, sometimes things happen, right? Mostly it's technological, but today it was sleeping through class. That's why I post everything on the website in advance, so in the event that I don't show up, you know what to do. You take care of yourself, right? So thanks anyway for and thanks, Linda, for putting up with that. Let's play Deo. Okay, and again, not fast. Now, when we're playing tough acts, we never play fast. If you're not up for the tough acts business, which is perfectly normal, you're playing melody. That's the thing that I think is the most important thing you can do toward becoming a better guitarist. Most of the guitarists I meet that are pretty good are really chord players. You don't meet a ton of people just wandering the streets that can play melody on a guitar, and you guys can, and that's pretty exciting. And of course the chords here are D and A, so there's not D chord and A chord and back. and some of you are at that level working on that, and that's, again, something you got to be able to do. So any way you feel like playing this tonight is awesome. I'm going to play it down through measure 24. I'm going to play it with my thumb the first time, and then when we make the turn and come back and play it the second time, I'm going to go ahead and switch to claw. That way I've had a chance to play it both ways, and and then you kind of ultimately decide which sounds better. Normally thumb sounds better than claw, but not always, and certainly you want to be able to do both, and then you can decide song to song which you prefer to play it at. So I'm going to do thumb first on tough axe, and then I'll do claw. From the top, 1, 2, 3, 4. Isn't that fun? That's a fun little tune. All right, so there's Deo. Probably the hardest song in Book 2, I would think. And of course, our chances of you playing it that style for real are pretty unlikely. This is really a strummer, right? Deo, Deo, daylight gone and we want to go home. Deo, right? That's how you want to play that one. So we spend a lot of time working on instrumental stuff, but sometimes we have to be honest and be like, you're probably never really going to play it that way. All right. Let's go talk about Down in the Valley. and how that song's going to go for you. Now this week, last week you were in D chord and A chord, which are your easier ones on guitar. This week, Down the Valley starts this ongoing punishment of putting a lot of songs in the key of C, so that you get comfy playing your C chord and then going to your G chord. It's a lot of work. And after many years of playing guitar, C chord is still the one that's just never really feel that confident in it. Okay. Some people get real comfy with it, but not me. All right, let's just run through. Let's play through it one time. Notice you have some G7s intermingled in those, and it's best if you can, when you see that G chord coming up and you grab it this way, and then you see the G7. It would have been better to grab your G chord with your middle ring and pinky, so that you can then switch to G7 relatively easily. And so if you're going to have to do that some, maybe it makes sense to do all of your G chords with your middle ring and pinky. Of course, in the chord charts themselves, which are generally set up for singers, I've given you not only the G chord, but both fingers, ring and pinky. Give it a little more punch, which means that you do have to redo your fingering when the G7s come up. It does come up a lot in guitar, and it's probably a skill that's worth working on a little bit. So let's try doing regular G chord or fancy G chord, and then switching to the G7 when they come up, and see how you're doing with that. So you really technically have 2 chords in this song, but it's going to feel a whole lot like 3 chords. From the top, just sing and strum it. 1, 2, 3. Down in the valley, valley so low. 1, 2, 3. Hang your head over, hear the wind blow. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hear the wind blow, dear. Hear the wind blow. 1, 2, 3. Late in the evening, hear the wind blow. Okay, so then and then obviously you're supposed to do it 3 times, but I'd say sing through it slowly a couple of times, just so you can get some practice. C to the fancy G, and then from the fancy G to the G7, and back to C. Sometimes G7 is then going to go right back to the fancy G. So it is a lot harder to play that song than you'd think, from a chord perspective, and worth the effort, I think. Let's play the melody from the top. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 more times. Not a hard song to play melodically, right? It's all 1s, 2s, and 3, or when there's no 2s, it's all just 1s and 3s. So when you see that, then you're like, oh boy, that's probably going to mean that I have to do a lot with the chords. And sure enough, here we go. So I will mention, I'm going to take them out of book 2 when I rewrite book 2 one of these days, but on the bottom you have your arpeggio picking patterns, and these actually are really, it's fascinating, because if you look through your arpeggios, it's all 3s and 2s, right? Which tells you hey, when I'm on C, it's thumb, index, middle on strings 5, 4, and 3. And then when I'm doing the G's, it's the same thing, just on the deeper strings, 6, 5, and 4. And if you, even if you're a terrible singer, it's kind of fun to do. Down in the valley, so changed low. Hang your head over, hear the wind blow. Isn't that pretty? It's a really effective way of presenting chords differently than strumming it, and it always works. It's always absolutely beautiful. All right, let's talk tough acts. And this will be, for those of you in book 2, this is your study for this week, and there's plenty to talk about here. Measure 1 is just melody, 0, 1, 3, but always grab your C chord when you're starting off on a tough uke extravaganza. 0, 1, 3. Use your pinky to get the 3, and then you come back and strum that C chord. You're already holding down 2 and 0, so just pluck them, and then strum again. Make sure you use a rest stroke. Your thumb should be, you're not going to play the first string, and you're just playing 3, 2, 0, 1. So you want your thumb to physically rest on the string you're not going to play, as if it's a little hammock for it, right? And just comes down. And that way it doesn't accidentally go off, and it also tends to make you hit this last string a little bit harder, and it brings out the melody better. And then you're going to grab the 0 and the 2, already holding them down, and then yet another C chord at measure 4, this time all 5 strings. Use your pinky to play the 3, and then take it off. And now you go over to your fancy G chord, put your ring finger on the 2nd string. So all of everything else that happens in 5 and 6 is already, you're already holding it down, right? Okay, measure 7, you got 4 strings of your G chord. Pinky on 3. And here's where you got to quickly go grab that G7. And then I would use my pinky to get that 3 in measure 9, holding on to the G chord. Open G chord, index on 1, ring on 3, and then a C chord. Rest stroke there, and then 2, 0, 1, 0, 2. You're holding everything down. 13 on is basically a repeat of stuff you've already played, but let's go ahead and do it. Ready, play. Pitch 2. Rest stroke. Pinky, no pinky. Fancy G chord. I'm already holding all this stuff down. Open G chord. Ring, and then G7. Pinky on 3. Open G chord. 1, 3, and C chord. And then if you're playing melody, you just hit that, right? But if you're playing tough uke, play the full C chord. Okay, and that's what you should do there. So isn't that a pretty song? And you don't have to play it fast. And the history of this song is a little murky as to exactly who wrote it and when and all this stuff. But what I would say is that it's a nice slow ballad, right? And so you don't have to play whatever speed you play at. I would say the speed you play it at is going to be determined by if you can get that G7 chord on in measure 8. So whatever speed you can play this at where you can get that G7 on in a timely fashion, that's how fast you can play this song. And those of you guys who've been coming to orchestra, you know how fast that is when you're just playing melody. You're just hoping to heck you get some of the notes, right? When we're playing in this style, we slow everything down, and some songs are more tolerant to being played slow than others. Down in the Valley, obviously, with this kind, it's sort of got a spiritual feel to it, even though I can't quite tell. I think nobody who really sure it was meant as a spiritual or just as a jailhouse ballad type thing, which I think is probably what it was really meant for. Those are tolerant. Those can be played at a much slower pace, and it still sounds good. Let your guitar ring out and create that real pretty sound that we look for. All right, there's Down in the Valley. Let's go grab, let's play Amazing Grace. Let's skip up to level 3. Those of you in book 2, you guys can play Amazing Grace, no problem. So let's go grab that one. And Amazing Grace guitar right there. Done. All right. Again, C chords and G chords show up in this one, and unfortunately, in addition to that, you have your F chord. Okay. Well, let's give it a try. Let's sing it one time through. 1, 2. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Okay, so there's right, nothing much there, but getting your F chord on, you got to get that F chord on in measure 3. Great practice for that. This is probably where if you're learning your F, you're like, I'll just play Amazing Grace because I only have to do it once, right? Some of the other, well, I guess there's twice, right at 11. I forgot you got to do it at 11 as well. Those are perfect amount. You play a bunch of C chords, grab your F, go back to the C chord. Those are the kind of songs you like where you got a chance to get your head around the thing you're about to have to do. Play the melody, all ones and threes again, so there are a few twos in here. Okay, first position, 1, 2. I blew it. 1, 2. 2, 3, 1, 2. Six, 7, 8, 9. That note is 9 beats long. Okay. Again with the arpeggio picking, it's in 3, so you can just hold the chord. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that raised a wretch like me. So I was trying to do it in 6, and then I got confused as where my fingers were. Let's do, try any type of arpeggio. Grab your chords and just do any type of, probably 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. So just just another pretty way, especially those of you guys that like to sing. That's a really nice way to play guitar. Not people don't do it enough, honestly. Professionals do it all the time. All right, and then finally tough acts on here. You'll remember the tough acts is quite a bit easier to play than the chords, honestly, for the most part. Let's give it a try. Let's do it just one time through. Pick your claw or your thumb. Either way is fine. 1, 2. You can see why it gets used a lot in political contexts where they're trying to be reverential or whatever. You see it in a lot of well, we won the election, let's sing Amazing Grace, because it feels super religious, even though it's it's a little bit secular. It's not terribly religious, let's put it that way, but it still sounds really, really nice. All right, there's Amazing Grace for a while. Speaking of songs that start with A, let's do America the Beautiful. Do I not have that in here yet? I don't have that one in here either. What the heck am I doing? I know we play them and then I don't get them in the book for some reason. And America the Beautiful guitar right there. All right. America the Beautiful guitar. We're going to play all the way down to measure 16, and then we're going to come back. Okay, I want to leave a little bit of time to talk about Andante in G, because while it's the prettiest song that we have, it's really, really kind of hard in a couple of spots. One thing I wanted to introduce you to, if you're playing on guitar and you have a short sleeve shirt on, you know how your arm sort of tends to stick on the guitar a little bit. You can buy these sleeves off of Amazon. I think they're $10. They're made out of sort of a satiny silk rayon, I don't know what you call it, some sort of modern material. Put it on here, then your arm doesn't stick on there and you can still have a short sleeve shirt on. So I own 2 of them, and I always feel weird when I put them on, like, oh, they're going to think I'm weird, but they really do help. They really do prevent your arm from sticking on your guitar. The other thing it does is help protect the finish of your guitar. If you've got a nice guitar, you probably want to do that. If you have a $500 guitar, you don't care. In fact, the sooner you beat your guitar, your $500 guitar, up with all sorts of scars and marks and burn marks and that, the better, right? You want that guitar to not be useful to anybody but you. All right, America the Beautiful. Remember we had G chords, D chords, A minors, D7s. Down in the next group of notes, we also have an E7. We have an A chord. Page 2, I think everything I think everything we had. G7 is gonna show up there to mess you up, but for the most part they're continuing with the same chords. You guys know I can't sing. I'm about to sing. 1, 2, 3. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the rooted plain. 2, 3. America, America, God shed that's that, right? One of the things I did, which I knew I was going to do, I was like, and crown, America, America, God shed His grace on thee. And then I'm supposed to get this G7 in, which sounds really cool, and I always skip it. And I know I shouldn't. And crown my God. But it shows you if you're in a measure, and you go from a G to a G7, or an A to an A7, or a D to a D7. If you get it in, it's going to sound better. But if you don't get it in, you know, no one will probably ever know. So we want to try to get all of the complicated stuff in. You guys know the melody. Some of you are playing melody, and that's okay. So you guys play melody. Let's see how we do on the tough fugue. 1, 2, 3. That's a nice melody. It gets pretty intense over there at the beginning of page 2, right? You're playing along and you're like, I got this, no problem. And then you start getting into those sort of messier chords down there at the bottom of page 1. The E7 with the 4 on top, and then with the 7 on top, so it gets kind of messy. And then you drop into the measures 9, 10, 11, and you're like, oh, this song went south on me pretty quick. I would say for me, the challenge is at measure 11, making sure you've got that bar on and you've got the 5th string open. Very hard to do. And making sure your pinky is almost surgical. picking out those sevens. That's a case where as I'm playing along, I'm like, oh, I see what's going on in this measure, and my eyeball immediately comes off the page and I start staring over here because I need to make sure my pinky is in the right place. And then once I plant that last seven, I'm like, okay, now what else is coming next, right? And then you got to look up. It sometimes helps if you're going to know, if there's a measure you know that you have to look away from the paper, put yourself just a little dot of yellow highlighter right where you want your eyeball to track to when it comes back. That it will help you find your place in the paperwork faster. So I might put a little piece of yellow highlighter, right at the beginning of measure 12, so that I'm like, oh, I got those fives and sevens. Play my fives and sevens. Then my eyeball tracks to that yellow dot, and I'm like, okay, oh, it's a G chord. That's right. And so those are just helpful tips that I use in a lot of my sheet music. I've been a little lax about it on now that I have the iPad, but this does a yellow highlighter on here as well, and so I'm going to probably over time be adding more and more of those yellow dots into my scores. I think it plays really well. I really like the arrangement. I think overall it's definitely level 3, definitely hard enough to play, but not too hard. Okay, let's go grab Andante in G. This is one of my very favorite things in all of the music that I do. I just adore this piece of music, and I'm positive that you'll be on board with me as well. But it's definitely going to take a minute to talk over a couple of things in it, and so let's get on it. So first off, let's see. Vic says that's a great arrangement. Right? Every now and then something comes out of your guitar and you're like, dang, that sounded pretty good. And you kind of look around like, did I just do that? It's exciting. On this piece of music, you do have a tough line and you do have a guitar line. I want you from the very beginning to study the tough acts, okay? Because here's what this is. For the most part, I wrote out this tough acts line, and I think it's brilliant. And so I do want you to be studying that. I see there's a typo in here. I'll have to fix that. I want you just to have faith that this tough acts line is going to be worth studying. I want you to play this song every single day for the next 6 months, and I think you will be proud that you did it. There's some very specific finger motions that you'll have to do, and so let's get going on those. So first of all, first chord's a G chord, right? So you grab your G chord, and then you realize, okay, I've got an open second string. So all I really need is my 3 down. So play that, and you're going to play those. Whole thing is going to be clawed. We're not going to do a thumb on this one. You can tell this is impossible with all these gaps, right? So 3 and 0, and then with your index finger, hit the other 0, and do it again. Now you've got an A minor. You just got to go grab that 1, leave your 5th string open. Same thing, thumb and middle finger, index. This one I have been doing both 2s and 3s here. Probably you can do your pinky on 3. You're going to be using your pinky on 3 quite a bit in this song anyway, so it might make more sense to put your index and pinky to do the 3s and 2s. Just get those on, and then play that, and then the index finger on the 3rd string. 3 of those. And this is, notice up above in the standard notation, it's 16th. There's a little bit of a pause, and then you're right back into your 16th note. So you're going to go, okay, so it's probably just your middle finger. Now you've got 2s and 3s. I have been using index and ring here. I think it works just fine. Again, thumb and middle finger. Get the 0 on the 3rd string. Slide your ring finger back and lose your index finger. So now your 2s and 0s. Ring finger up on the high 3, the 5th string C note. You're going to switch to your middle finger on 2, and this is where you really have to use your pinky on that 3, 2 and 3. Okay. So throughout that little section there, it's all been in the chord shape, but because you don't need to do the whole chord shape, you're going to find a little bit easier left-hand fingerings to reduce the amount of work. You're going to be super busy in this song. Okay, that changes here at measure 13. Grab your, or measure 3, grab your D7, and let's do get your index and middle finger on strings 2 and 3, and then your thumb is going to play those zeros. Okay, so grab your full D7, and then pluck index and middle together, and then thumb, and then try ring finger or your middle finger, grab that 0, then a 3 with your ring finger, and then it's all open strings. We love those. 3, 2. Okay, and then your ring finger is going to have to be up on the 3 of the 5th string. Open first. Middle finger to get this 2. Pinky finger has to get the 3. Open 5th string. Index finger on 1. You can tell which part of the song you're going to put the most time in on. Ring finger way up on 3. Open. And then grab probably middle and ring. I'm sorry, thumb and middle to get the 2 zeros. And then 2-0. Okay, now we're going to repeat. Okay, so we're going to keep this song around for about 3 weeks so that you have a chance to really dig into it. I will tell you that little run there at the beginning of measure 4 is the tough part of this. Most of this is going to end up being it'll drop under your fingers pretty quickly, but that section in measure 4, at the beginning of measure 4, you almost have to memorize it. So let's play it without stopping, just the first 4 measures. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That up. Go on to measure 3. It's hard to hear the music coming out of it. It sounds pretty cool, right? A little bit faster. 1, 2, ready, play. all that music is just 4 measures, right? A lot of challenging pieces there. Definitely give yourself an opportunity. First of all, the nice thing about this piece, you have to play it with your claw, and so usually when we're finger stylists, we tend to get real good at our thumb and not so great with our claw. I want you, this entire thing gives you a chance to practice that, to be thinking about which fingers are in which strings. They aren't necessarily planted on these strings, right? So sometimes they're moving around, and you got to just get where you can feel, all right, which string am I on? This part will come along pretty quickly. The left hand, definitely, I spent a long time really studying each measure, really thinking about which finger am I going to use where, and then my original sheet music, I had littered it with fingering notations to myself about which finger am I going to use where, and then all of a sudden it just started to come out of the instrument. So that's page 1 that you'll be working on. Page 2, whole lot more of the same, and it gets even more intense in 7 and 8. So let's walk through that real quick, and then that'll be enough for hurting your head tonight. Grab your D7 and at measure 5, okay, and your thumb's on the 4th string. Play that. Again, the thumb. This is just arpeggio picking. Then you're going to hit the 3rd string. 3 on the 1st string, 3 on the 2nd string, 0, 3 again. Now back to that D7 shape. 3rd string, 3, 2nd string, open, 3. And then here's where your ring finger, you're going to find you need that ring finger up here on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. So you may not want to be using it on the 3 at the end of measure 6. Just think that through a little bit. Okay, and then 2 zeros at measure 7. 3 and then the 2. Pinky on 3. 1, 2. Middle finger on 2, pinky on 3, ring finger on 3, 2 zeros, ring finger. I tend to play those all with my thumb. I played the first 0 with my index finger, and then I tend to thumb, 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 thumb. But you can do it any way that makes the most sense for you. Let's play from measure 5 just so you get a chance to feel it a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second time you come through. Okay, your repeats will tell you play page 1 twice and then play page 2 twice. You only have 8 measures total. We're going to spend 3 or 4 weeks just playing this thing over and over again. So that should tell you how important I think it is. We're going to spend 4 weeks on 8 measures. Okay, so that means that every week you should have 2 more measures done, and then you'll really knock this out of the park. This is one of those pieces where if you play it nice and slow and smooth and beautiful, people will think that you've been playing guitar forever, and so it's kind of a showpiece, right? And I've had several people, several private students who've worked this up into something really miraculous. It's really a beautiful piece to play. So also not unimportant that Fernando Carulli wrote it. Carulli's one of the great grandfathers well, Cassie is probably the great grandfather, but Carulli is one of the grandfathers of guitar, and really knew how to take our instrument and turn it into something nice. And so here you go. There you go. Andante in G. That should keep you busy for a couple weeks. Before I let everybody sneak out that's not doing classical, remember we are not going to meet next week. I've got my 30 year wedding anniversary, so we're probably going to go. We're going to go pick up something and eat it on the patio, right? This is the world we live in. So don't come next Tuesday or Wednesday. Now, whatever we meet on Wednesday night, Tuesday night and Wednesday night next week, we won't be having guitar, and then we'll pick up the week after that, just as if nothing had ever happened. So, thank you all for being here. We're going to move into the classical stuff now, and I know that's not for everybody, right? So some of you are into classical, and let's go ahead and grab Mirtenbaum, Jaime Mirtenbaum Zenamon, his waltz from Epigramme, and let's go play that, and then we'll see how it's coming along. There's a number of songs in the classical program that I am not all that keen on, and this is probably one of them. So just know that I'm okay if you're like, I don't know. You don't have to play every single song in a book, right? But you probably might as well. All right, Waltz. Where is it? Waltz by Xenomon. All right. No repeats. And my note to myself is play this in second position. Let's give it a try. Vic is down with Andante. She's giving it a thumbs up. All right. Thanks, Gary. Have a great night. I'll see you not next week. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Vic likes the Andante. All right, guys, you're going to love the Andante. Once it starts coming out of your guitar, you're like, wait a minute. I'm a guitarist. Okay, and it sounds even better on a metal string guitar, honestly. That's the beauty of it. All right. Xenomons Waltz. Let's see if we can just get through this thing. All right, not fast. Let's just see how we can do this. My note says second position, which means probably best off with playing these fours with your ring finger. 1, 2, 3. Too fast. Okay, and then go. Like I'm on the wrong string. Play it one more time. I can do way better than that. It's kind of a weird little waltz, but it's kind of, I don't know, there's something fun about it. From the top, 1, 2, 3. Isn't that weird? Such a weird song. The I think probably part of this is just getting you. They're probably trying to teach you about second position. That's what I think is going on here. But I also think, not unimportantly, that if you look at the dynamics on here, you start off mezzo piano, a little bit quiet, and then you get a little bit louder, right? And so you pick up pace when you get that 4/3 routine there in measure 3. Bum bum. And then it slowly fades away until measure 9. And then again, they want you to pick up the volume in 11, 12, and 13, kind of play it loudly through 17, then play it even more loudly, 19, so at 20, 21, you should be about as loud as your guitar will do. And then you bring that down in 22, 23, and then it says RIT, which means slow it down that last measure and finish out. Linda says, why are there rests above the first notes? So it's a great question, Linda. And we are so used to playing tablature that we don't need all that nonsense, right? We really don't need that nonsense. But in classical music, on guitar, they decided, hey, we're going to use standard notation, whether it makes any sense or not. It doesn't, but that's what they decided. And the thing that you'll see in most classical guitar notation, and you see it pretty clearly here, is that you have two voices. You have your tenor voice, which is rest, half note, rest, half note, rest, half note, rest, half note, rest, half note. That's what's going on in the tenor, then in the upper strings, right? These strings. Underneath that is the bass, and in this one it's B 2 3 B 2 3 B 2 3 B 2 3. So it's two separate voices that's going on there, and you'll see that a lot in all of the. And I will try to remember in some of our other pieces when we get them out. You'll see it more. This piece is a little hard to understand what's going on because it's kind of a weird. These modern songs are weird, but on more old-fashioned songs, it'll be very clear. Here's what you're supposed to be doing with the bass strings. Here's what you're supposed to be doing with the treble strings. And so that's usually a little easier to see that physically in standard notation than in tablature. With a song like this, you could theoretically try to stop the sound of your tenor strings. You hit that 4, let it ring, you play the 0, and then stop it as you're hitting the next 4. Until you get into some pretty complex music, you probably don't want to be working on that. Just let the notes ring. I think for the most part, we have a pretty nice instrument that just rings, right? And so you're going to be messing it up plenty. Let the strings be free. But that's what's going on with those rests there. They're telling you, hey, we've got the tenor voice, which is rest to 1, rest equal E note to E 2, rest F 2, F sharp 2, rest G 2, rest F sharp 2, rest E 2. That's what's going on there. So you have two independent voices. And that's why you see those rests, and sometimes it's helpful. This song is not particularly helpful because your bass note is mostly happening on the 3rd string, which isn't really considered a bass string, but in this song it is the bass. So hopefully I explained that in some way that didn't make complete nonsense of it. Fun little tune. I don't know how much more we need to say about it. Let's move on to the next song, which I actually really like, Moonlight by Stepán. And let's see if I actually got it into my gadget here. I'm pretty sure I did. Done. Set lists. RCM. Moonlight. Okay. So your repeats here, you're going to play 1 through 12, and then you're going to come back and play 1 through 10, and then you're going to play 13 through the end. So you're playing the main part of the song twice. You can see right already, here's a perfect example. This is exactly what Linda was asking about. This is so clear, right? You have your tenor going along with all those eighth notes. blah, 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 doing whatever they're doing. And then in the bass, which is your D notes and your C notes and your E notes, that's all really, those half notes are hanging out down there on the bottom. You're supposed to pluck them, let them ring, right, while you're busy working up on your tenor strings. Important to point out, those of you who read standard notation, we're in the key of D, right? And so all of the F's are sharp and all of the C's are sharp, and that's why you end up playing 4s for C's instead of our usual 3s, right? And again, it doesn't really matter because we have tablature, and so you're just going to play those notes and figure out the best fingering for it. But when you're looking at standard notation, you always have to remember, oh shoot, all of the C's are sharp. And it's just one of those things that we spend a lot of energy on that tablature eliminates. Let's just talk briefly. I haven't really worked this up. I played it enough times to know that I like it, but I haven't really come up with really great solutions. I did put for myself a few fingering notes on there. That's those little 1s and 3s that are hanging out in the middle of the two staves, especially measure 11. I had to really write out what I wanted to do there for myself. You do not need to follow those fingerings unless you really want to. But I think usually when I'm fighting a piece of music, I start writing down my fingerings, and usually by the time I'm ready to type the thing up and have it be final, I've usually got a pretty good idea what the fingering should be. And it's not, may or may not necessarily be what they published in the original sheet music. And especially for older sheet music, the composers never put fingering in. They figured that was on you to figure out. These days with modern music, a lot of the composers, especially instructional composers, they feel like they got to tell you what fingers to use. I sort of resist that notion that you need to be told which fingers to use. Let's play just a little bit just to see how you can sound. Hit the 0 and then 202, 0, and then hit the 4, hit the 4 again, hit the 0, 3s, 0, 0, D chord, D note, open again, use a D chord here, then hit that low and measure 6, hit the low open, A string, D string, and grab your other 2, just hold an A7 here. Well, it's not an A7, I don't know what it is. Modified A chord. Use your oh, it's a D chord, that's what it is. Jeez, that's right there. An open note on the 3rd string. 2. And then this is where it gets kind of messy here. 4 on the 4th string. And you're not going to want to slow down. I'm going to slow down to talk about it, but this is all 8th notes as well. Use your 2 on the 3. And then a 2 on the 2. And then a 2, or your 1, use your index finger on the 2 of the 5th string. 3 on the 2. Repeat the whole thing, okay? When you come back to measure 10, you'll skip to measure 13. Put your 4 on the 4th string. I think once you play it a few times, what you'll find is it sounds like the Moonlight. Kind of sounds like a moon setting. I think that is what he's going for, or at least the moon sort of changing as the evening goes along, sort of thing. It does definitely, I think, when I was playing it. When I was putting together the sheet music and I was playing it quite a bit, I definitely could feel like, yeah, that's the Moonlight. He's got this right. He's conveyed a pretty good sense of the changing moonlight as it's probably setting, as was my picture. But it's a little bit also of a technical challenge because you've got first string, second string, first string, followed by second string, first string, second string. So there's some technical challenging in there, and also just making sure that you're playing the fours are your C sharp. If you were studying classical music proper, we'd spend weeks talking about, oh, that's a C sharp, you're supposed to know it's a C sharp, and we waste all this time talking about C sharps, when really, just make sure your finger's on the 4 in this song and you'll be fine. And I think you'll enjoy it. We got 2 weeks to work on it, so spend a little bit of time with it each day. You also have Andante, right? So you have some really, really nice pieces of music to keep you busy. And I think that's it. Remember, we're not here next week. We will be here 2 weeks from now. And I'll put a note up on the website just to remind everybody. And I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me take a look. I want to say our next piece is that lasts. I don't know why I keep going out. That's I'm right. The classical piece that comes after this is called Scioppidas, and it's all these really heavy, laborious tunes. Sounds are really sort of heavy metal in its approach, kind of fun to play. And so, those of you guys that are studying classical, if you want access to the complete list of classical pieces that I've done, I did set up a page. It's behind a password, and you're welcome to go wander through there now. I just have 2 videos done. I got more videos that I've done, but I haven't finalized those, of course. And then I think there's about 30 pieces of sheet music on there, maybe something like that. I'll go peek and I'll tell you how many pieces there are. And you know, I don't want you to feel like I have some sort of secret area that you don't have access to. You can absolutely go take a look at it, and let's go take a peek. I have 22 of the early ones out, 22, 23, 24 of the stuff out of book 0 done, and then I have a handful of other ones done, and 4 or 5. So there's plenty of sheet music there. Now, mostly, my plan is just to march you from song number 1 all the way down through song number 394. By the time we get to 394, you will be you'll be ready to perform on the stages of the world. But my plan is just to tab every last one of them out. So we'll see if I can follow through on that plan. But hopefully you're finding something meaningful in guitar every day to spend a little bit of time with, and with the full knowledge that at the end of this, you're going to be really, really good. Thank you guys. I know Linda and Vic, you've been attending orchestra, and I hope that's it's a different way to play, right? And I hope that you're finding that meaningful and challenging and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm going to check out for now, and I will see all y'all in 2 weeks. And you know, as I make updates on, I'll put some stuff up I'll put next week's work up on the website probably tomorrow, so that you can, you know, get ahead if you want to. Yeah, but you should have plenty to keep you busy. Let's see, you have to hold the bass half notes for those. Okay, so Lynn is saying you have to hold the bass half notes for those where you hold them. See if I understand the question. So I'm going to go back to Moonlight. So the bass notes are half notes, yes. And so you would go 0, play, 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 0, play, 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 4, play, 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 4, play, 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 O, 3, O, 3, O, O, 3, O, oh, and then you're going to go to another one. So in other words, I think that you and I are on the same page, Linda. I don't know if I'm understanding completely. Like 4 in measure 2. Yeah, so those 4s are treated as half notes, because you can see that up in the standard notation. They're treated where they just ring out the entire time until you hit the next 4. Yep, you have that exactly right. And then up above on your treble strings, you got O, 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 and then the next measure, O, 3, O, 3, O, 3. Right? So and if you look at the standard notation, it's pretty, it's helpful to get a picture of it or an image of what's going on, rather than just where to put your fingers. But you can see half note, play a little, 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 throughout that whole entire section there, until you get to 5 when it's whole note, play a little, and then you go back to half note, play a little, half note, play a little, whole note, play a little, play a little, play a little, half note. I hope that's making some sense. Again, there's some advantages to standard notation, and you can get a picture in your head a little easier of what's happening in the music from a timing perspective. It's just that you also then have to figure out, all right, there's a C note. Is that really a C note, or is that a C sharp, right? And you have to start you end up putting a lot of energy into thinking about that you should be putting into making your guitar sound nice. Have I answered the question, Linda? I hope that I think that you and I are on the same page. You have to hold the bass half notes for those where you hold them. Okay, I get it. Thanks. Linda's like, I don't know. I'm moving on. I think how the guitar works, it will just take care of itself, honestly. You're going to hit, every time you hit that note, you're going to let that ring while you're busy doing the tablature, or doing the treble notes tablature anyway. So it sort of ends up taking care of itself. As you get into more advanced music, there will be times when you actually have to stop a string from ringing, but certainly not at this level. You're just going to try to keep everything ringing and pretty as possible. Okay, that's enough. Have a wonderful weekend, you guys. I'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace.